Good evening, everyone. We are reconvening from executive session, and we just want to welcome everyone to our first in-person school committee meeting in 16 months. The committee's here in person tonight, but Liza O'Reilly and Carlos De Silva are away on personal matters, so they won't be here, but we have a quorum, so we're able to go forward. Tonight we're running sort of a hybrid meeting, so we're to allow greater public participation. One of the positives that came out of the pandemic was that more members of the public were able to attend our virtual meetings and engage. And this was a positive for all public boards, but especially for the schools, because a lot of the people who are interested in what our work are parents and teachers, and it's hard to physically get to meetings on weeknights. So we're going to do everything we can to make public participation more accessible through this hybrid option, and I'm asking for everyone's patience as this is our first meeting with this model, and we will probably have some issues to work through, as you probably all know. So, as we proceed through the agenda items, the committee will discuss each item, and then if we're taking public comment on something, we'll take the comments and questions from the people in the room first, and then we'll recognize anyone who's attending virtually. If you're attending virtually and you'd like to be recognized, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, and we will go in order. After everyone has been recognized once, we can hear from anyone who wants to speak again as long as time allows. Again, we're going to do everything to ensure that this runs smoothly, and appreciate your patience as we work through this, as we make our meetings as effective and accessible as possible. So with all of that being said, we have some action to take coming out of executive session. The first is to consider a Memorandum of Agreement with HEA Unit A and act as appropriate.
So Liza O'Reilly is our salary negotiation chair, but again, as Carrie noted, she's not here today, so I am in the unenviable position of having to be the Liza O'Reilly tonight, and she does this much better than I do, I am quite sure. But so as everyone knows, we have a, sort of our standard MOA with the Unit A members of the Hingham Education Association. Our previous COVID-related MOA has expired on June 15th when the state of emergency was lifted. But as one of the things that we had been talking with as we were working through the last few weeks of the school year and talking with our teachers is what we could do to recognize all the work that they did this year, all the challenges they faced, all of the pivoting they had to do, the incredible amount of flexibility they had to deal with while we were instructing students and delivering a high quality Hingham education to our students during an incredibly challenging and extraordinary year. We discussed in executive session that we are recommending that we approve an additional 4 personal days be added to the HEA Unit A members' personal day bank, and that those dates could be used in perpetuity. We did have one limitation that we were just not going to allow multiple days to be used in the 21-22 school year. But we thought that would give teachers an opportunity, in Unit A members some opportunity to take some well-deserved time off next year for all the additional effort that they had to put in during this incredibly challenging year. And along with that, the two groups, Dr. Austin and the Unit A, have, I believe, written a joint statement that will be delivered to the HEA members, sort of memorializing what we've done here and what we're offering to the HEA unit members. So, any questions from folks in the committee?
Okay, that's great. We'll take a motion to approve the amendment to the MOA.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the amendment to the HEA Unit A Memorandum of Agreement to add 4 personal days to be available in perpetuity with a limitation that multiple days will not be utilized in the 21-22 school year. In addition, a joint statement between Dr. Austin and the HEA Unit A memorializing this agreement will be delivered to HEA Unit A members.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Any opposed? No. Okay. So the memorandum of agreement passes.
Yes, thank you. Can I just?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to our HEA Unit A members and all the members of the Hingham Public Schools staff. I mean, the year is over, and it was a lot to do. I was just sort of saying to Carrie, I was like, and to the parents out there and grandparents and guardians and everyone who helped make this village work this year. unfortunately, the HEA nor the school committee have the authority to grant parents personal days, but I was thinking sort of bittersweetly that unfortunately, when your nest becomes empty like mine suddenly has become, you'll have more personal days than you would like to have. So, but thank you to all for making it all work.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, the second item under action from executive session is to consider a memorandum of agreement with the Food Services Union and act as appropriate. We put this on here in case we needed it, but we are not ready to act on this now. So we'll address this at a future meeting. Number 3 is to consider memorandums of agreement with non-union administrators, Mary Eastwood, Derek Smith, Beth Wilcox, and Suzanne Vinnes, and to act as appropriate. Dr. Austin, do you know?
Yep, thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to, as we do every year with the administrators are up for contracts, so we have successfully negotiated contracts with 4 administrators moving forward that I'm recommending to you tonight. Mary Eastwood, principal of South School, Derek Smith of the middle school, Beth Wilcox of Foster, and Director of Student Services, Suzanne Vinnes. So all that information is in your packet, and I recommend that you approve the terms of our contracts.
Okay. Any questions on the committee? No? Okay. I'll take a motion.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the terms of the recommended 3-year contracts for Mary Eastwood, Derek Smith, Beth Wilcox, and Suzanne Vinnes as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. Contracts are approved. Number 4 is approval of minutes of the school committee meeting held on June 7th, 2021.
I'm on a roll, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes. This will be an easy one. Minutes of the school committee meeting held on June 7th.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. Minutes are approved. All right. Number 5 is questions and comments. The Hingham School Committee encourages community engagement and welcomes questions and comments as agenda items are discussed at the meeting. In addition, we've set aside up to 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting for comments or questions that fall under the purview of the school committee and are not already on tonight's agenda. If any guests wish to speak, please raise your hand, state your name and address, and address your comments to the chairperson. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker and must relate to topics within the scope of responsibility of the school committee. As established by Massachusetts general laws, the responsibilities of the school committee are to 1, select and evaluate the superintendent, 2, review and approve budgets for public education in the district, and 3, establish educational goals and policies for the schools in the district. Speakers are encouraged to present their remarks in a respectful manner and to consider the privacy interests of others. The public comment period is not a time for debate or response to comments by the school committee. The school committee is not adopting or endorsing any of the comments made during the public comment period. And as I stated earlier, if you are participating remotely and would like to make a comment or question, if you could use the raise hand function on Zoom, and we will we'll recognize you then. So does anyone in the room have any questions or comments? No. Shari, do we have any hands?
We have one question about the lines of ordinance.
Okay. Okay. Elise, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Sure, can you hear me?
Oh, yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. If you could just state your name and address.
Elise Burns, 42 Free Street, Hingham.
Hello, are you still there?
Good evening.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that you may be unable to answer me directly tonight. It doesn't mean that these questions shouldn't be asked in a public forum. As the entire school committee and Dr. Austin already know, I emailed them last week with concerns about Dr. Austin's Massachusetts superintendent's license. It shows on the DESE Educator Lookup website that he holds a temporary license that was issued on November 29th, 2018. According to DESE's website, temporary licenses are valid for 1 year of active employment with no extensions available. Dr. Austin began working in Hingham on June 19, 2019, according to an email that he sent me. That means his license would have expired on June 19, 2020, but as we all know, COVID hit in March 2020. I have made multiple calls to DESE's licensure hotline. I was told in one call that temporary licenses were not eligible for COVID extension. In another call, I was told that there was an extension and that it would expire on July 31st, 2021. Either way, I have serious concerns about the lack of oversight, lack of transparency, and lack of attention to this matter. Dr. Austin shared with me via email that he would be taking his MTEL communications test, and Carrie Nee shared that he was taking that test today, June 21st, 2021. I took the liberty to pull all the possible MTEL testing dates from June 19th, which was his date of hire, to March 13th, 2020, when COVID struck. He had 14 possible opportunities to take the MTEL during that time. Since the state lifted the restrictions on MTEL test taking, Dr. Austin has had an additional 7 opportunities to take the MTEL. Why is he just now taking the MTEL on June 21st with the looming expiration of his license on July 31st? Maintaining educator licensure is the responsibility of the educator or administrator and the hiring body, in this case, the school committee. Why have we not heard about this sooner? Where is the transparency? Was this conversation a part of his evaluation last June? When is his evaluation scheduled for this year, and will it be open to the public? Also, if there are any Hingham teachers that were let go because of licensure issues, Dr. Austin should be held to the same standard. By the way, he will not receive his results until July 16th, according to the MTEL website. And according to the DESP licensure hotline, it will be a 2-week turnaround to review his license if he passes the MTEL. I know many educators that have not been able to pass the MTEL communications test. He may just squeak by. Well, what is the plan if he doesn't make it? What happens if he fails the MTEL? The DESE hotline told me that he would then be out of compliance and wouldn't be able to work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
I
your
asked
comments.
whether or not funding would be cut.
Okay, thank you for those comments. The 3 minutes are up. And again, we're not going to respond to public comment, but this is something that, again, we've communicated with people, and the committee will be addressing. Are there any other hands?
There's one more.
Okay.
School.
Okay. Wendy, if you could just state your name and address for the.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Wendy.
Yes.
Yeah, if you could state your name and address for the record, go ahead. Wendy? You there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, Wendy, if you could just state your name and address, and then your comment.
I can't hear anything.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think all of us on Zoom can't hear.
Are you? Oh, yeah, she can't hear anything.
I know.
It would be if she's watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Sherry, are you muted?
Can you type her a note in
Yeah.
the
So I
chat?
will go ahead
Let me see. Yeah, I'll just try that.
and speak. I can't hear you, but I will.
Okay. Hey, Wendy.
Oh,
Can
can you hear me?
you hear?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, we could hear you. You couldn't hear us, so you should be okay now. If you could just
All right.
state your name and address.
Wendy Driscoll, 24 Charles Street. I just wanted to read a quick email excerpt from the commissioner. He just asked a couple questions. I know a bunch of emails have been coming in. Maybe you'll address it. Hopefully it makes that clause that within 48 hours if it wasn't otherwise known. So maybe you can talk about it tonight as part of reopening the email. And I'm just going to read the excerpts. School and district leaders, it has come to our attention due to media reports this weekend that there is some misunderstanding regarding the DESE COVID-19 guidance released on May 27th. This email clarifies the DESE guidance for the remainder of the school year, summer, and fall, as shared on our call with school and district leaders this past Wednesday. For summer programs, masking indoors and maintaining other health and safety guidance is not required, but is encouraged. The DESE summer guidance is in alignment with state guidance encouraging unvaccinated individuals to continue to mask. So just to repeat, summer programs, masking indoors is not required, but is encouraged. So I wanted to ask the question, will you be modifying the summer school mask policy? Is there going to be an emergency meeting, given that this guidance was provided? You mentioned, Dr. Austin, during the last school committee meeting, the district will not require masks in the fall unless they were mandated. So summer is not mandated. So therefore, will you not be requiring masks in the summer? As many of us who have children who are attending various programs over the summer, these children desperately need to have the barriers and obstacles removed. They're the most vulnerable. And for many children, their letter-sound combinations cannot be seen or heard correctly through the mask, and they're the ones who need the proper education. So will you be calling an emergency meeting? Will you be discussing it tonight and having masks optional?
Okay, thank you, Wendy, for your comments and your earlier email. We will be taking this up under 48 hours tonight, so I encourage you to stay on and we'll discuss it then. Okay, is there anyone else? Sure. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Number 6 is the Superintendent's Report. Dr. Austin?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. And just briefly tonight, I just on my agenda I have the end of the school year 2021, and I want to use this opportunity really just to thank once again all of our every one of the members of our HPS community, from our custodial staff to the kitchen staff to maintenance workers to central office folks, teachers, support staff, administrators, everyone for an incredible year, and how much I appreciate all that has been done. At the end of the day, I believe it's nothing short of miraculous, and I'm really incredibly proud of everyone and how they stepped forward and got this done this year. It's really hard to imagine that we've been 16 months since we've sat in this room together. It's been a very, very long period of time, but the district has weathered it, and we're ready to move forward, and I'm excited about that time for all of our staff and thank them for their time. So I want to say thank you. And at the end of the year, it felt like we were very much back to a fairly normal with graduation, many of the end of the year activities. There were a lot of smiles, you know, the celebrations of end of time, either elementary or middle school, up through high school were fantastic, getting some field days in. People adjusted. They made a little bit of change, but they got out there and they did that. And so thank you to, I know I have a lot of folks here today, but all the people who've been out there who made this work for the last 16 months.
Sherry, are you muted? Because people aren't able to hear you or hear us. No, sorry. I think it's the microphones. Yeah. Okay. 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 All right. Well, just go ahead.
So sorry about that. And so just thank you to all of them, and looking forward to the summer with these folks and getting ready to go for the next school year. So it's very busy in the office now, and we have some new staff coming to join us, and we've been well engaged in that activity, so that's good news. We're in good shape for that. We have had some resignations that'll be in your packet later to be able to see what those are. One in particular, just to make sure that we're clear, is East Principal Tony Keaty has taken a position in another district in the central office role, and so we are currently advertising for an interim principal for that for this next year, so that a full search can be done during the school year with engagement with the community and other people involved. So that's really the end of the year report. Just thank you to everybody. I'm not doing a COVID report for the first time in many, many months, and that feels good. It would be 0 anyway for us, so that's good. Yeah. And I want to recognize, we have a fairly lengthy list of retirements. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read them off tonight. And so we'll get moving. With 10 years of service as a teacher, Penelope Allen Baltera. With 11 years as a paraprofessional, Margaret Brennan. 21 years as a paraprofessional, Gay Canepa. 18 years as a paraprofessional, Eleanor Donovan. 25 years as a teacher, Deborah Hall. 21 years as administrative assistant, Sharon Hall. 20 years as a teacher, Barbara Kahane. 20 years as a tutor, Anne Marie Kukunas. 20 years as a custodian, Michael Lefevre. 13 years as a teacher, Kathleen LeBlanc. 15 years as a teacher, Carol Marshall. 21 years as a teacher, Vera Neville. 18 years as a custodian, Danny Nicolai. 43 years as a paraprofessional, Carol O'Connell. 34 years as administrative assistant, Kathy Rufo. 31 years as a teacher, Carrie Sorikoff. 20 years as a teacher, Patricia Van Miro. And finally, 31 years as a teacher, Rosemary Gazio. Thank you all for your service. I wish you a happy and long retirement. That's it.
We thank everyone for their service too, and I recognize a lot of these names. They'll be missed. So, all right. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for superintendent's update? No. Anyone in the public? No. Anyone on Zoom? Nope. Okay. Number 7.1 is communications received by the superintendent. Dr. Austin, do you have anything?
None.
Okay. And then other communications? Does anyone on the committee have anything? Okay, I have two. So one was the mask. A number of parents emailed us today asking about the mask policy. And we will, as I mentioned, we will be taking up that later tonight. Just as a background, on Saturday night, the State Commissioner of Education sent the Massachusetts superintendents a letter stating that for summer programs, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE, is encouraging but not requiring unvaccinated students and staff to mask when indoors and on buses, which is in line with the CDC guidance. Because we just learned about this over the weekend, we weren't able to add it to the agenda, but we'll take it up under 48 hours later tonight. This is important to do as we have students starting ESY, I believe, July 6th. So we'll have students in the building. We also, as you heard earlier in the public comment, we did receive emails from two people who had questions about Dr. Austin's professional license. We're not going to discuss that tonight as it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to let the public know that we did respond to those emails and wanted to take this opportunity to address those concerns and ensure that the public has accurate information. The bottom line is that Dr. Austin has a valid license. Some of the confusion is coming from the fact that the DESE website is kind of hard to navigate and isn't necessarily clear. Before joining us here in Hingham, Dr. Austin was a fully licensed superintendent in Maine. The Hingham School Committee hired an educational consulting firm, NESDEC, to guide us through the superintendent search process, and they did the initial screening of candidates. No candidate passed the initial screening unless they were duly licensed and passed the initial background check. When Dr. Austin applied for the job here in Hingham, he applied for a temporary license, which is the first step any superintendent who comes to Massachusetts from another state is required to take. And that license became effective as of November 29th, 2018. I think some of the confusion is coming from the fact that, according to the DESE website, temporary licenses are valid for 1 year. But the time does not begin to elapse until Dr. Austin begins his employment with the Hingham Public Schools, which happened on June 17th, 2019. That means, but for COVID, his license would have expired at the end of June 2020. However, because of the governor's declaration of a state of emergency and emergency order, educators with licenses that would have expired between March of 2020 and now have been granted an extension until July 31st, 2021. The reason for this extension is that educators were unable to complete the necessary steps for licensure as offices were closed until recently. Dr. Austin is currently completing the last necessary steps and is expected to move to a professional license, and we expect him to receive that. This extension was granted to all educators who had licenses that were expiring because these offices were closed and they did not have the opportunity to take those steps. So I just wanted to make sure that was out there for the committee and for the public. So we also want the public to know that the committee takes our responsibility in these concerns very seriously. So even though we are confident that the committee and Dr. Austin followed the proper procedures, I double-checked all of this information with DESE and with the district's attorney and informed the two community members who raised the concerns, and want to reiterate that Dr. Austin does have a valid license, is on track to move to a permanent license. So just so you all know.
Thanks, Carrie.
Okay. Next is unfinished business, which is a fiscal year 21 final update. Dr. Austin?
Yep, thank you. I think we're gonna have, actually, I think that John was the final FY21.
Yeah, that was, I think it's supposed to say financial, and it's not final because we're not final
Right.
yet. But a couple of weeks ago, the selectmen were talking about having a final meeting with the advisory committee at the end of June, and I wanted to make sure that the school committee had some precursor of how we were doing relative to the overall school year before. So that's why I sort of added this item to the agenda to provide a financial update. What I put in the package, I wanted to kind of give everyone an update about the CARES submission. We made another CARES submission. So, generally throughout the year, we have submitted a total of $2,792,519 to CARES. We haven't received all the reimbursement yet. But so and I did put that detail sort of package into your package. From a financial perspective, we have turned from negative to positive as I presumed that we would, and we've turned into very large positive. And that's largely because of the CARES reimbursement, if we get it, right? So right now we haven't received all of the money, but if we've got this the CARES money, the financial picture for the school department this year is going to look we have a significant variance, somewhere probably between $800,000 and upwards, right? It may exceed $1 million, provided we get all the CARES reimbursement. And a lot of those have to do with it's all got to do with the CARES reimbursement for the most part, because we were doing business a different way. We began the year with austerity measures. We're not purchasing textbooks, we're doing online licenses. All of those are COVID reimbursable. We had a couple, from a special ed perspective, there were a couple of move-outs that we had that were sort of unbudgeted, so that they resulted in some positive variances for tuitions. We also used some grant money to pay tuitions. So, with that, so those kind of pieces added up to take over the balance. We had lost some revenues from pre-K, from full day kindergarten. We lost some revenues from Kids in Action. And as you saw that the list of retirements, there's also been a lot of resignations. So there was a lot of, churn throughout the year too, and those things contributed to a positive variance as well. So what I really wanted to present today, I don't have all the details of the numbers, because today I wanted to take a snapshot of where we are as of today. Previously, I had a snapshot of where we were June 9th, and those numbers changed significantly, and so I don't really have all the details of where those variances are, but we will get those once I have more time to study them. But the long and short is we're positive, we're in good shape. We will close out the year, and the plan will be really to return a significant chunk of money back to the town, which I think is very good, considering that fund balance is funding several $1 million next year. And even this year's budget was comprised of significant funding from fund balance. So I think it bodes well. Bodes well for the town. We get to preserve the money, and we will certainly be using that next year. And I will have a better update in sort of more detail July 27th. That will be our next meeting. And I know that the AdCom and Advisory, they want to do something in July too. So I'm not sure if it's going to be before or after, but if it's before, I will try to get something out to the school committee before we go public into a Board of Selectmen meeting with, where we are.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No. Anyone in the audience? No. Anyone on Zoom? Okay. Next will be 9.1, to discuss a proposed field trip to Santa Fe in April 2022 and act as appropriate. That's you?
Me.
Okay.
Thank you. In your packet tonight, it is with great pleasure, since it has been a very, very long time since we've talked about any trips anywhere, any place when it's come to students. I am pleased to recommend to you tonight a proposed field trip to Santa Fe in April of 2022. This is organized by people at the high school with Rose Buga and through the Fine Arts Program. It sounds like a great opportunity for our students, and I'm happy to recommend that to you for approval.
Anyone have any questions? I think my only question is, it's expensive. It's $3,000. Is there a way do you happen to know if there's a way for students who, if any kind of financial aid?
I don't have that answer right off.
Okay.
Usually there is, but they usually do fundraising, et cetera, to make sure that we get as many students as possible.
Just want to make sure finances aren't an option or aren't an obstacle. Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed field trip to Santa Fe in April 2022.
I will second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. The trip is approved. It's nice to talk about traveling again. 9.2 is to declare a grand piano as surplus. Like, is this you, John?
That was me, yes. So the Brian Sincata had approached me about he got an offer for a baby grand piano to be donated to the high school, and doing his diligent research, he went there and looked at and determined that this baby grand is better than the baby grand that we have today at the high school, and the donor was actually willing to transport it and get it shipped there. So he approached me and said, "Hey, what am I going to do? I don't have room for two pianos and stuff." So what we have here and what you have in the packages is really a request to take the old grand piano that we have there, which is a Yamaha Conservatory C3, and declare that surplus. With the surplus declaration, what we will do at that point is we will make an advertisement into Gov Deals to try to sell it to the highest bidder. And if we can't get a highest bidder, what we'll do is we'll attempt to donate it and have them come pick it up or dispose of it at the least cost to Hingham. So, and Brian has done his checks. In the picture that you have, there's two things. The sheet music thing is a little bit broken, but he said it's in a state that it could be repaired. And the piano that you see also has a metal dolly. That metal dolly will be staying with us. So the declaration certainly is just for the piano. The serial number and the location of the piano are listed in that detail. And I put some words down for the recommended motion. So I'm asking to have that declared surplus so that we can properly dispose of it, whether it be through donation, through sale on govdeals.com, or dispose of it at the least cost to Hingham.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? Somebody like to make a motion?
Everyone's looking at me.
Yeah.
Did you? You know what? I'm sorry. My iPad is about to die. So do you have the?
Oh, yeah.
Can I? Yeah.
Ness, do you have it?
I think so.
Here we go.
I can. Oh, all right. I can.
Okay,
All right.
I'll make a motion. Do you want me to do
No,
it?
no. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to declare the Yamaha Conservatory C3 piano, serial number F5280924, currently located at Hingham High School, surplus, and sell it to the highest bidder, or otherwise dispose of it at the least cost to Hingham, where such disposal may include a donation to a nonprofit or other organization.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. All right, 9.3 is the CPAC update, and Jen Gallagher is here. Welcome. Hi.
May I first?
Yeah.
Excellent. Nice to see all of you, first of all.
Yeah, it's nice to see you.
So, yeah, that's it. Just to confirm, that's it. Yeah. So, that's right. So I will just briefly introduce the board. Obviously, I'm Jen Gallagher, co-chair with Tim Miller Dempsey, who, upon his election to the school committee, vacated the premises of CPAC, conflict of interest. Sarah Goldman was our public relations coordinator. Dr. Katie McBride was our education chair, and Sharon Burnett has been our treasurer for the last couple of years. So that's the board, the executive board that's maintaining the CPAC body. And just to kind of go briefly over what CPAC does, you can flip to the next slide. So the role of CPAC really is to, you can keep going, it's okay. Oh, okay. The role of CPAC is really to advise the school committee on matters that pertain to education and the safety with students with disability, meet regularly with administration, and connect with parents through social media and events. I mean, that's basically our fundamental role. And what this presentation does in your packet will tell you how we kind of did it over the last year. And kind of working with the school committee, we would, advocate for budget increases. We would inform you if there was something that we had a question about, including like the question about outdated school books. And actually, there should be one more bullet.
Sorry, I don't remember it off the top of my head. But, we really worked and liaised with the school committee to be able to effectively communicate our, concerns and advocate for students with disabilities in Hingham. Working with the administration, we worked with Dr. Austin very closely. He was a very gracious host when we had our in-person forum in May. We frequently met with Dr. Vinnes, weekly during the school closures, and then monthly once after school reopened, to kind of again discuss issues that students had as it related to. There was all sorts of issues in the last year that we were able to kind of effectively address and communicate out using the social media Facebook site primarily, but also through kind of web-based emails as we needed. So that was kind of the way we worked with administration and liaised with Dr. Vinnes and Dr. Austin as well. And I think the real work that you saw this year was, and because that's really where it was needed, was with parents. We had our annual Rights and Responsibilities workshop, which was held in December 2020. We were not able to have that last year because of the closure. Actually, we were supposed to have it 3 days before the school shut down, and then, lo and behold, we were a little delayed. But we have now had it taped, so it's available at any point in time should anyone want to see it. In January, we had an executive functioning. And over the course of December break, it was kind of more December, January, we did an ABC, you can go to the next slide, an ABC disabilities scavenger hunt in which we hosted at Plymouth River School, which was an interactive ability to allow families of every age group to go out and kind of increase. It basically was designed to increase awareness of disabilities, but it was allowed a number of disabilities and kind of literally spelled them out in some cases. Like if you can look in that picture on the screen, it's how you see it's dyslexia, and it's how children who are dyslexic actually would perceive the words, kind of as they're reading. So I think it was a great way to kind of articulate what some students struggle with and make, raise more awareness as it relates to students with disabilities. And because executive functioning is always seems to be an issue of concern, we ran another executive functioning workshop. It seems to be January seems to be our trend spot for this, but new year, new time to clean up. And we worked with an outside agency, Engaging Minds in Newton. Then they helped us provide a free workshop that helped students and parents really cope with COVID and provided techniques that helped them during remote learning. So it was open. We made this open and available to everybody, regardless of if you were a student with a disability or not. And in February, we had a workshop with Dr. Nicole Braithwaite, who is the woman in the picture, but basically talking about parenting in unpredictable times. And the major takeaway from this workshop was it defined stress, like toxic stress, and when you should really do something about it, and when, and what to, kind of helping give parents really techniques to helping them cope. Because obviously kids that might not have necessarily had stress before were now encountering it. And so it was really important to get out there and, give parents tools, especially because mental health facilities and mental health resources right now are so tight and so limited. That they're, and the lack of really any alternatives, we tried to provide an opportunity for parents to be able to ask questions and provide helpful tips, including a worksheet of like what to do, things you can do to help, help take the stress level down in your home, and also, what to do if, signs to look out for if it really got to be too much, to kind of help enable parents to be able to take action. And then the last kind of opportunity that we had this year was the Special Education Forum. It was the first, I think we were proud to say, it was the first in-person forum since COVID. And we gave parents of special education students the opportunity to really talk about their concerns. And while it heard the opportunity for students of neurotypical children, the opportunity to hear them. Because I think sometimes what happens is you don't know you need special ed until you need special ed. And so giving people the opportunity to really talk about it and have an open community forum to kind of bring it, kind of some of their frustrations and concerns out to light, I think was really helpful for those that were able to attend. And Dr. Austin was a really gracious host, so I will commend him for that. There are a whole list of action items that were then taken just as a side note that we have then passed on to the school committee and made it part of their agenda to kind of move forward as we transition out of our roles. And then, not the little but not least was the weekly and online meetings, weekly and monthly and, daily sometimes it felt like as we needed it. We had hangouts with parents that would be unscripted, just, again, opportunities to talk. my child is having trouble staying online. What are we doing for your child? Or, especially during remote when everybody was disconnected. And it really gave parents the opportunity to connect in a way that we had wanted to do in person and that we had been able to do in previous years. I was also proud to say we facilitated the creation of a dyslexia support group. Again, children with dyslexia or, learning disabilities that relate to dyslexia have different needs. And so it's sometimes nice to be able to hear about what those needs are and, bounce off your friends, say, hey, this is new to me. What do I do? Where do I go? Where do I go for additional resources? Who can I ask for help? And that's one thing we're really proud of as well this year. And we continued to, social media was hot. I'm not going to lie. We were busy with that. And we continued to moderate social media through the forums and questions and, DMs and every mode known to me, even stopping me in the grocery store with a mask on. People would find me, but that's the way it went. And then the last, but certainly not least, you saw it on the front cover. You're also seeing it here. That's the new logo that we developed. There's also a whole bunch that are branded that are specific for CPAC, so that when communications come out, whether it come out from because one of the things we found was because we were using outside vendors and trying to do things as economically as possible, it didn't look like everything belonged to one entity. So if you look back at even just the workshops that we created, the brochures we created, we gave the logos to our partners so that we created, and people would understand that it was from us. So that's why that was a really important thing. And it made it very easy to be able to understand and brand CPAC from a unit. And also, it also made us stand out among our peers outside of Hingham. One of the things that's been really important in the last couple of years that I've done is work with outside towns to see what they're doing. And, when you're going to these other towns, they've all got a branded identity. So it was really important for CPAC to be able to kind of show that, given all of our robust parent participation. So that really represents that. And our goal kind of simply is to continue to be the voice of parents in student guardians, to continue to be the voice of parents and guardians of students at IEPs and 504 plans, and continue to reach students and families at different points in their academic career. I think one thing we heard from our feedback was, that parents of little kids need to know that there's options. When your child is diagnosed with autism in first grade or kindergarten, it's really frustrating and it can feel very isolating. And I think the important thing is that we continue to reach out to those families and kind of embrace them in the fold, and not, we have a very robust population that'll be aging out in the next couple of years of students that have 504s and IEPs that have been with us for a long time. And it's continued to kind of generate and reach those new families that are in town, that are young and need the assistance. So we'll achieve this goal through advocacy, parent support and engagement, and education. That's kind of the way we'll do that. So through advocacy, obviously, is maintaining strong relationships with the administration. Obviously prioritizing clear communication, and and helping facilitate regular updates from all the different parties. That's the one thing I think CPAC did really well in the last couple of years, if I could pat ourselves on the back, is to be able to, work with the different parties and say, this is going on, what are you seeing, whether it be at different elementary schools, and also, or at the high school level and the middle school level, and be able to kind of come up with a goal of what we need to be able to move forward with. I think definitely with the inclusion of 2 additional resources within the special ed department to kind of help do that, that will be much easier and will be a really important goal moving forward. Obviously, we'll continue to work with school committee, and in result, there's a lot of say baggage, for lack of a better term, of kids that have had, anxiety issues maybe that they didn't have before, or things that had, kind of failures, or not failures, but weaknesses as a result of the closures, that they weren't able to kind of address all of their issues. That said, let me take away this, which is the school department and the school teams did an amazing job addressing student needs during the pandemic. There's no question about that. But there's new challenges that arose as a result of education during the pandemic that need to be addressed moving forward. And that's really important that we work with you all and in this room and all the teachers to continue to address those things so that those things kind of get remedied over the course of a child's career here at Hingham. And again, one of the, we had a big call out when we thought we would have to shut down the social media website. And I think that's really when it hit home that we needed people to step up. because there were so many people that reached out to me, and I'm sure Tim too, that said, no, you can't shut that down. Like, I don't know what to do if I don't have it. I don't know who else to ask, or where do I go for questions? So that, social media, and right now Facebook is a great way for us to maintain that community forum. It was a great way to kind of, take the online in-person advocacy that we were doing and bring it online in a time that was really important for us to be able to do that. And that's really, one thing that we continue to do. So we maintain the social media forums and the website, and liaise with the other towns to figure out more learning opportunities and best practices. We're pretty close with Cohasset and Hanover, Weston and Westwood, and have a pretty good idea of what everybody else is doing as it relates to CPAC. And I think that that's a really important thing to continue to do as we move forward, so that others can have a better sense as far as room for improvement, opportunities for growth, and ways to see things that we might not have seen here in town. And last but certainly not least, it's just continuing to build a community that we are in Hingham, and kind of building that community and fostering that sense of community. And that's why together we can.
Thank you very much, Jen. Yes, you and Tim and the whole board did a phenomenal job over this year. It's not an easy role, but it was vital for parents. I was in most of your meetings and the forums, and it was such an important role. We're parents and kids are very lucky that we had you there. So well done, and good job recruiting a new board.
Yes, we feel very lucky. And both Tim and I think obviously Tim's got a very clear role, his role, serving in school committee, and I'm actually going back for education. So hopefully be a teacher in the fall, so we'll see where we end up.
That would be great. Okay.
So thank you very much for all your time.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions or anything to say?
Not a question, but just a comment to reiterate what Carrie said. Really, thank you so much, both of you. As the CPAC liaison, I attended most of the meetings as well, and the frustration and concern for students was real, but there was also just amazing camaraderie and problem solving, and how can we get there, and this administrative team, as well as the staff and the teachers at the high school, just everyone did pull together and get it done. And I think as we move forward, this was an unbelievably extraordinary year that nobody could have prepared for nor expected to ever happen, except when it happened 100 years ago, right? But we learned a lot from it, and we very fortunately had received a generous budget from the town to move ahead. And there are really great days ahead for the Hingham Public Schools, and most importantly, our students. And I hope that as a community, we can come together and get back to the work at hand to maintaining student achievement for all students in the district. And I know everyone's up for it.
Yeah, I think that that's something that CPAC really strived for, was trying to reiterate kind of their place at the table. And that's, what we continue to do. So
yeah, well done.
We are leaving you in very capable hands, and as I've told the board, I'm not gone. Tim's out of commission, so we know that. But I'm not gone. I'm still be available as a resource. So if they have questions or concerns, or how to do a PowerPoint presentation next year, I'll still be available. So that's the way it'll work. But
we're looking forward to working with them.
Likewise.
Yes.
And working with you as an educator.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Just if there's one theme that came out of this year, it was communication, that parents were desperate and really hungry for effective communication, and sometimes that meant more, sometimes that meant less, sometimes that meant thinking more outside of the box creatively about how to communicate to the parents. So I think to sort of keep that idea going as we move forward, and I know it was sort of clear from Jen's presentation the things I will do to get out of doing the final presentation, but in their transition to next year's board, which is, as it will be elected soon, but is not elected yet, it will be an entirely new board. So Jen and I have been co-chairs for 3 years, so this is a big transition time for CPAC, and just have that on people's minds as support from administration, school committee, especially support from Dr. Vinnes. I think next year's CPAC group will need some extra support, just to maintain the momentum that we had. And Sarah Goldman designed the logo, is the only other point. Just want to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you. 9.5 is, or 9.4, sorry, is to approve field management plan as recommended by the Town of Hingham Recreation Department. And we have Mark Thorell here too tonight, who's the director of the rec department. So Jen, I think you're gonna speak to this one.
The policy subcommittee, we met on June 11th to discuss the new Town of Hingham's, the outdoor recreation facilities permit, which has been proposed by the Recreation Department and by Mark. Just to give you a little background information, the Hingham Rec Department is becoming the central command for both the permitting process and the turf maintenance protocols of all Hingham fields. Did I get that right, Mark? Yep. And so the subcommittee, we went over the facilities permit to revise any additions that needed to be added on based on the school committee policies. And we made the recommendations to add 3 major points onto the recreational permit. First was just to add an adult organizer on under some of the language, and then the 2 major things were to, under their general policy section, was to add the fire and grilling language that comes from the school committee's use of school facilities policy, section K. And then the second was to add the police, fire, and the fire coverage language from the school committee's guidelines from the Hingham Public Schools policy that I believe was created in 2015, and was to add that onto the document as well. And Mark was very nice to add all those on, and we have I believe a final draft of that policy of the permit.
I believe so.
Okay.
Unless anyone wants to see any revisions, but I believe we hit all the bullet points there.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to this? Or did she come?
Not other than.
Actually, can I ask you to go to the mic? Sorry.
Sorry. Mark Thorell, Director of Recreation. We're just really excited to start both from the permitting perspective as well as the turf maintenance. It'll be really the first time where the town is dedicating a significant amount of resources towards the athletic fields, and really excited to work with John, Jim Quattromoni, and Katie Hartman with this town-wide process, and being able to have more resources to put towards turf maintenance in fields. I think Hingham's really going to see an uptick in the quality of athletic fields. So we're just super excited to get going on this project.
Great, it makes sense. Does anyone on the committee have any questions about this or comments? Yeah, okay. Seeing none, I will take a motion. Jen, do you want to do the honors?
I'll make a motion to allow the Hingham Recreation Department to assume responsibility for school department field maintenance and permitting process as recommended by the field study performed by Weston and Sampson.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay. All set. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for all the work.
Okay. Next is 9.5, to receive notification of resignations.
Thank you. In your packet tonight is the list of resignations. And we want to get back to that as we get back to in-person, putting that on the agenda each time. And this is the time of year when that happens. So about 80% of these resignations come from paraprofessionals, which is pretty standard for our system. And so they are in your packet for you to review.
Okay, 9.6 is to discuss the process of the evaluation of the superintendent. It's that time of year. We should do that. And we had discussed doing, so July 12th, most of the administrative team, that we were originally supposed to have a school committee meeting that night, but most of the team will be away at the MASS convention. So what we talked about is potentially doing a special meeting on the 15th to do just for the superintendent evaluation. Does that work?
What's the next meeting's after the 21st?
Yeah, the next
I'm just
one.
worried about the timelines, and I think, with all the things going on, that however you'd like to do that.
Okay.
To push that out. I mean, it can be done in August too, so it doesn't really.
Right.
And it might be better if we wait to that first week in August.
Okay.
And I don't mean to throw that at you the last second, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
it's fine.
thinking about the timelines and how much time's going by, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm just looking at what our meeting is. All
That'll
right,
give me enough
so-
time to give you a written self-eval as well.
Okay. So that would be August 9th. Yep. And that's a regularly scheduled school committee meeting, so we'll just put that on the agenda. So, okay, so the rubric is in the packet. I believe Sherry highlighted the indicators we're going to be using for the evaluation, and Dr. Austin will send us his self-evaluation that we can use. And the process will be we'll all write individual evaluations, and you'll send them to me, and I'll compile them into one for the committee. And then this is always done publicly, so the public can attend and hear what we have to say, and then we'll vote on it. So, yep. So, all right. So August 9th.
So July 12th we're not meeting.
Yeah, so we're not meeting July 12th, and
Meeting July 12th, right?
yeah, and then we will discuss the superintendent's evaluation on August 9th.
Okay.
In a public meeting. Okay, next is 10 subcommittee and project reports. Tim, I hate to throw you under the bus, but we always start at that end of the table. So, do you have anything to report?
I have nothing yet.
Okay, Jen.
I attended my first SNAP meeting with Liaison, and they had they just went over the year's events and the upcoming. They had a great event at the country club, and then they just briefly they talked about their upcoming summer programs and the camp that they're holding in August.
It's a collaboration with Sunset Point Camp. Yeah.
Sunset Point. And then I just will continue to go to their meetings. I think the next one is in the fall. And that's all I have.
Okay, Ness, do you have anything?
I just have the under the finance. I signed some warrants. That's in your packet.
Yep. Okay. Michelle?
Couple of things. The building committee has been meeting. So the building committee, as folks may remember, is undertaking the Foster School building as well as the Plymouth River Window Project. So the most recent meeting was last week. We met with the OPM and the design architect firms for the windows project, and that we've sort of have a great timeline of how things will move forward, budget estimates. So that was a really great, productive meeting, and that project moves ahead. With construction scheduled to start next summer, and then be finished before school reopens. It's a tight window, no pun intended, but it is planned. It's planned, and they are confident that they will be able to get those new windows and doors in. And then on the Foster School Committee, the next step, there are 2 meetings to working with the MSBA to select architects for the project, and I was going to be the representative from the building committee on it, but I have a work conflict that I can't attend. So John Ferris graciously accepted to take my place on the design. Sorry if I stole your thunder.
No, we'll address it. No, we'll address it at 48 hours.
Okay,
so,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
And then a special ed subcommittee meeting. I'm going to schedule one with Dr. Vinnes. So hopefully we can meet over the next couple of weeks to hear about hiring updates and budget updates. Dr. Austin and Carol's Perez hosted the last Metco parent coffee. I unfortunately missed it, but it was a nice turnout, and we do want to try to do something with the Metco parents and students perhaps over the summer, maybe something in person in Boston that the committee would like to be invited to. I think last summer there had been like an ice cream social that Metco put together, but I think we might want to try to do something directly between just our Hingham students and our Boston students and bring that group together. And then the last thing was the high school council met for the last time of this school year. Last Monday, we talked about the goals for next year and centered around student and staff safety and well-being. Some green initiatives that they are undertaking. And then there was a lot of discussion just about bringing the community back together after this year of so much separation and so much anxiety and so much angst. And, I was talking to folks at work about it, and I was like, it's just such a weird thing because we all sort of went through this thing together, but in our own homes. And then there's no sort of like seminal event to like, can we like sit around and talk about this? Like, can the globe all get together and just like talk this through, like what we all just went through? But there's not a way to do that, right? So we just have to, bring our own community together and move ahead. And they had some really great suggestions from the students and the staff on how to do that at the high school next year. So it was good. And there was a great report of just the students were so grateful for all the end of year activities. The graduation was beautiful. The students had their prom that parents put together outside of the school, which was well attended, and the kids were so respectful and so well behaved, and they had an amazing time. So it was really a great culmination to what otherwise was a very challenging year. So it was a great wrap up meeting for the high school council.
Great, thank you. I don't have anything to report, so that's everything there. Next, we have 4 other items as may not be reasonably known 48 hours in advance of the meeting. We have a few things tonight. The first is the Foster. We need to change our appointee to the MSBA designer selection panel, and John graciously agreed to do it. So if somebody would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to replace myself and appoint John as the school committee representative to the architect selection process.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then next is the mask policy that we've gotten some emails about, and it was mentioned during public comment. And I think I gave some background on that. So Dr. Austin, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you. Your policy that you adopted during the emergency procedures to when COVID began was policy. I think it's section 1.3 is what it is. It's in your packet to be able to view. Now that the new guidance from the commissioner has been that masks will not be required any longer, and that includes up to summer. We were waiting on that final guidance, which he clarified this last week, and so that with that, that would also be my recommendation that we not mandate masks, but allow people to do that's optional. If somebody wants to wear one, they can certainly do that, but it's not not mandated. But in order to do that, you would need to rescind your policy because your policy says it'll stay in effect until it's rescinded. And so it didn't end at the end of the COVID on the state of emergency, but rather it has to be rescinded by you. So it's my recommendation that you rescind that so that we can have our new procedure, which is basically not to mandate masks from this state forward.
That's in line with the CDC guidance as well. So does anyone have any questions or comments on this? Okay. I'll take a motion to rescind policy 1.3 on face coverings.
I will make a motion. No, it's so strange to be doing this, right? I never thought this day would come, actually.
Yeah.
And there was a good time, and I'm sure you educators who are in the classroom all the time are like, can we kind of normalize these things? Because I don't know about you folks, but I haven't even had a cold, knock wood, since in 14 months. Yeah. But it is, we'll all be happy to see them go away. And yeah, I know. Airplanes and trains, absolutely. But for our students, I think, and it makes sense and it follows all the guidance and the guidelines. So I will make a motion to rescind face covering policy 1.3.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. Policy is rescinded. So I just want to thank everyone for their patience with the hybrid meeting, if you can hear us at home. So we'll be working out the kinks, and we appreciate seeing all of you in person and the people that called in. So it's great to be back in person again. So with that being said, I will take a motion to adjourn. Or do I need a motion?
You do.
Okay.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.